Hello, it's Karen Burniston, and I'm here with an assembly video for one of my die sets. This is die number 1021, the Sleigh Pop-up, and you can check out all of my designs at karenburniston.com. This is a really cool die set because you get two different assembly options. So you can make a standing pop-up, which means that you open your card up to 180 degrees, a nice flat card, and then that sleigh pops up in the middle. Or you can assemble it to be a traditional pop-up card, which is when you view your pop-up with your card opened to 90 degrees. The video will show you both assemblies, and we're going to start with the stand-up assembly. There are 9 dies in the set. I have them here on a magnet sheet for the video, and I'm going to start with the 2 pieces to cut the sleigh. You can use any die cutting machine that can accommodate a wafer thin die. Just make the proper sandwich and roll it through. I'm using a Sizzix Big Shot today. The overlay piece is just sized to fit over the sleigh like this to give it a highlight, and you also have the option with this piece to take advantage of the stencil and emboss feature on the die. So if I want to emboss that die, I need to change out my machine to be an embossing sandwich. And you would just need to Google that to find out what it is for your machine. I'm using a Sizzix Big Shot, so I need my impressions and my silicone rubber on the height for an embossing folder. So for me, that's my Essentials platform. It might be tab 1 if you're using a tabbed platform. Cutting pad on top, and then you just roll that through the machine. So embossing the die gives you that really cool raised texture, and you could leave that as is or maybe highlight that by brushing some ink across it. And then another option would be to actually put the die back over the paper again and sponge some ink through the die using it like a stencil. So in this case I'm using some white ink, and then that will give me a very crisp version of that texture because it'll add that white color to all those raised areas. And then maybe I'll brush a little red around the edges as well. And then I just glue those 2 pieces together. And then I would just repeat this exact same process to make a second sleigh because I need 2 of them when I'm making pop-up cards. This is the pop-up mechanism die, so I just need to die cut that out of cardstock. After die cutting, I want to work all of the folds in the piece, and I always find it's easiest to put my thumbnail right into the fold towards my thumbnail, but then reverse, because every one of these folds on this piece, I want to fold away from me, so basically as a mountain fold. Okay, so I'm going to just find each one and then reverse it so it goes the other way. Let it have a whole series of mountain folds going down this piece. By working all those folds first, it becomes really easy to bring the notch that's out on the end of the strip around and into the notch that's in the center of the strip, creating this little box. Now I'm going to repeat that same thing on the other side. I'm going to bring the end around, slide the notch into the notch at the center, and that creates my second little box. So basically, and I'll just kind of work these folds so those boxes will fold in either direction. But what it is 2 side-by-side boxes with kind of a doubled up center. And what I'd like to do is actually seal that center. So for that, I'm just going to take my glue and get in there between the 2 boxes and just press those 2 together to seal them. You get to choose your card size. A top fold card is what you need. I've decided to make a square card today, so I went with a 5x5 top fold card, added some pattern paper just out of my stash, rounded the corners, and then now I'm going to glue my mechanism right over the center of that fold. Before I glue this down, I want to make sure I have it oriented correctly because the little cutout in the mechanism points one direction, but then the opposite on the other side. So I have to figure out which way is forward. And the way that's forward is the side that matches the sleigh. So it's just a matter of taking my sleigh and saying, oh, does that fit? Yep, that fits perfectly. So that's the section that I would want to have pointing towards the front of my card. Any strong adhesive will work. I'm using glue, so I'm using LINECO neutral pH adhesive in my fine tip bottle, but you could also use glue dots or a nice strong double-sided tape. Just something that's strong enough to hold up to that card opening and closing a bunch of times. For location, I want it directly over the fold of the card. And then I can close that card and actually give it another good press in the close position to make sure I have a really good bond on the two boxes to the card. And that's all there is to it. That's the pop-up mechanism. All that needs to happen now is just to glue a sleigh to either side of those boxes and then start filling it up with fun embellishments. Your glue needs to go on the box itself because of all the cutouts, but the cutouts line up perfectly with the sleigh, and that makes it super easy to both add the sleigh to the box in the proper position so that it pops up and pops down really nicely, but then also so that when you add the other sleigh to the back side, it is in the same exact spot as the one on the front. So that will really make it easy to do that because you've got that guide on the mechanism itself. I love that this pop-up is such simple assembly, but with such a dynamic look to it. Now I am going to see the back of the sleigh as the card opens, and since I happen to choose a metallic cardstock that wasn't the same on both sides, it's actually just white on the back, my thought was to at least kind of dress up that back sleigh a little bit. I'm going to put a little gold decorator sleigh on the back, and that way as the card is opening, it's not just solid white, it has a little bit of glamour to it. So you fill the sleigh by gluing things like to the centerpiece or to either of the sleighs, but you can also add a little extender, giving you more area to decorate inside the sleigh. So here's what I mean. You take a little scrap of cardstock. I don't even measure it. I just loose cut it with my scissors, and then I just add a little bit of glue to both sides of the end of that scrap. And where that's going to go is I'm actually going to separate the two halves of that centerpiece and just press that little extender right in between the two. And I'm just going to do it at an angle that is basically kind of hidden by the sleigh, but going up into the back of the sleigh like you see there. And that just extends all of that platform area where I can fill that with presents and animals and, whatever I want to put in the sleigh. The die set does come with decorator pieces, including a present with a bow, you've got a wreath with a bow, and then there's a snowflake. So the cross piece is the ribbon that goes on the present. So you just add some adhesive to that, and then you've got the present box and just glue those together. And then you have the option on the big bow as to whether you make this a horizontal present or whether you make it a vertical present. So it's just up to you as to which way you glue the bow on. I like to just add the adhesive kind of to the tails of the bow and have the top of the bow sticking up higher than the package. I just think it looks nice that way. So typically I just make a series of presents, some of them horizontal, some of them vertical, just kind of mix up the colors and the looks to them. And then there is a small bow as well, and that is sized to fit perfectly on the little wreath die that comes in the set. And then there's a snowflake. So then to fill the sleigh, it's just a matter of adding some adhesive to that strip and then just pressing my items to it. So I'm going to start here out on the end of the strip. I'm going to choose a present. Ooh, tough choice. Red. I'm going to go with red. And then I just press that to that glue to add it into the sleigh. And of course it can go at any kind of angle. It can be high or low or side, you decide how you want these to look in your sleigh. And I'm going to just go right down that strip and add another present and then just continue filling. And you can also attach items to the sleigh itself. Like I'm going to add this extra present here to the front end of the sleigh. And I wanted to point out that the sleigh is sized to fit any of the animal sets, including the new winter animals. So I've chosen to use the hedgehog here and have her holding that wreath. And then I'll just add snowflakes. Now, in addition to the snowflakes, I did create a greeting using word set 3, and I thought it'd be fun to swap out the O for the wreath that comes in the set. And I am a fan of just repeating my elements on the fronts of cards just to make a simple lead-in. So more of the pattern paper. I made a little row here of some more presents and snowflakes using the set, and then I'll just glue that to the front of the card. And this finished card is a 5x5 square, and what's important about that is that you can mail it in an A7, an envelope for a 5x7 card, and then you don't have to put extra postage on it. Okay, one card down, let's make another one, this time using the assembly for a traditional pop-up. And you know, I'm all about options, so let me show you another way that you might choose to style the sleigh. In this case, I'm going to nest the two dies together and cut them at the same time. So now instead of having a piece that I layer on top, actually the area that's the decorator part of the sleigh ends up coming shining through from underneath when I layer that overlay over the top of a solid sleigh. So you might just experiment with your different options for how you style these sleighs. Die cutting and folding the pop-up mechanism is identical no matter which way you're making the pop-up. So it's just a matter of making those two side-by-side boxes by bringing the ends around and putting the notches together. So we make mountain folds. I bend towards my thumbnail and then reverse it. I bend towards my thumbnail and then reverse it. And that makes all the folds necessary for a box. I bring the notch around and put it through the center notch, making those two side-by-side boxes. And once again, I want to seal those together by putting glue between them. I always get to choose my own card size, so I've cut a piece of cardstock to 8.5 tall by 5 inches wide, so that makes a 5 by 4.25 top fold card. So I have a little bit of a pattern paper problem in that I have way too much of it, and yet I still manage to buy more. But this is an older paper. I have so many pretty holiday papers just left over from previous years that I don't buy new stuff for videos. I just go back through my stash. And I really encourage you to do the same. Just find something pretty. This sleigh is going to work great with any color scheme and any type of paper. For a traditional pop-up assembly, the back sleigh gets glued to the back wall, just right along the edge of the fold. And then the mechanism is actually going to glue to the sleigh, lining up the mechanism with the pattern on the sleigh. So the adhesive will go on the box itself, just avoiding all the holes. And then I'm just going to press that down over the top of the sleigh. And then the other side is going to attach by adding the adhesive to the bottom of the two boxes. They're basically just going to operate as one unit now. And I'll just bring the card up to that 90-degree position so that I can press down the bottom of that box to the other half of the card. Now, one thing that I discovered right away was that glitter paper being behind that mechanism was not going to be permanent. There was no way that glue was going to want to stick to that glitter. So I just went in and peeled away the glitter. It didn't really matter that it was a little bit messy because all of that's going to be hidden anyway. So a little hint for me, if you're using glitter paper, just make sure that you remove it from the area that you're expecting that mechanism to stick to. And then I just need to add my other sleigh to the front of the box. So once again, just going in there with my glue and avoiding those holes with adhesive, and then just lining up the pattern and pressing that other sleigh to it. From here, there's no difference. The process for filling the sleigh is identical as with the standing sleigh. I just added my little extender arm with a scrap of cardstock and just filled it all up with some cool presents, snowflakes, and a wreath. I stamped my Merry Christmas greeting onto a couple of layered labels. Those came out of the gift card label set, which I'm going to use on the front of the card as well. Now for the front, I've just turned to my leftover materials, the same pattern paper and a few embellishments from the sleigh set. And when I die cut the large gift card label, I also nested in one of the smaller labels and cut that at the same time. So this large label is cool because it holds, as an option, a standard size gift card. So you don't always have to use it for a gift card. As you see, it's a really pretty shape and you could just use it as its own embellishment on a card. But it does hold a gift card. And since I do plan to use it for a gift card, I'll put the gift card in before I add my glue. And that way I know I'm avoiding those couple little areas where the card slides kind of behind the piece. I don't want to glue those areas down. And I like doing this inlay technique when I am going to use a gift card so that I don't have anything for the gift card to catch against. So it ends up just being a nice flat piece, even though it's two-tone. And then I will just finish out my front decoration by just layering those few extra pieces in the corner and gluing it to the front of my card. So there you have it, 2 different ways to assemble the Sleigh Pop-up die. And while, of course, we think of a sleigh for a Christmas card, I am looking at this and thinking it could be a pretty cool Halloween card. A little bit of that Nightmare Before Christmas styling, and there are a couple new Halloween dice in the collection as well, so I'm looking forward to giving that a try. And throughout the year, you can use those presents, maybe on birthday cards. You could use the mechanism to animate something else in your collection, so you don't always have to use the mechanism just for the sleigh. And of course, I love how the cute little winter animals fit so nicely in the sleigh. If you click on the website link, you'll go to KarenBurniston.com, where you can find out information about purchasing these dies, as well as links to all of my other social media accounts. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel and check out some of my other videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.